Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're finally back with a Miss Fortune supplementary guide. Now, I haven't been making videos for some time because life is pretty busy, and as I mentioned, unlike the first video I made of the year, I'm not sure which one that was, might be the Echo one, I'm gonna be kind of tuning down the number of videos we're making this year because life is really busy. I don't really have the time to make so many videos. This is my first video for patch 4.0, and let's actually jump straight into it, although I should be doing a tier list relatively soon. And yeah, alright, so first up, the first thing I want to mention is obviously Miss Fortune did get buffed. Her AP ratios on her Make It Rain, which is her E, as well as her ultimate bullet time have, basically been increased. So basically it's made AP Miss Fortune and also made Hybrid Miss Fortune a lot more viable. So, just a very quick explanation, why are we not building Miss Fortune full AP? Well, because I'm playing Miss Fortune in the ADC role, and if you build her full AP, she doesn't have enough DPS and she doesn't have enough uptime, because basically if you go full AP, your damage is fully dependent on your E. Yes, you will get some damage from your ult, but your Q and your W is going to be useless. Whereas with this build, your Q is going to be doing pretty good damage, your E is going to be doing pretty good damage, and your ult is going to be doing pretty good damage as well. So this is a little bit more well-rounded, more balanced out kind of build. So what exactly is the build? Well, let's jump straight into it. So first up, we have the Mana Mune. Mana Mune basically gives you ability haste, mana, as well as AD. So AD, of course, is going to be really useful because Miss Fortune scales with both AD and AP, and the AD is going to help you especially on your Q, and of course when you evolve this into the Mirror Mana, the on-hit damage on your Q is going to go up by a lot, making your Q very potent. Secondly, of course, ability haste to get your abilities up more often, in particular your E and your Q. And lastly, the mana. Of course, Miss Fortune runs out of mana real quick, so we do need that mana because we don't really have mana from any other sources. So Mana Mune really key first item. So now we go into the AP. We get Liandry's. Now Liandry's of course does give you health, AP, and the main thing we're after is the Torment passive. So when you cast your E mostly, basically it's gonna do max health damage as bonus, and also it's gonna do a burn as bonus magic damage over 3 seconds. So what this gives you is two things. The first thing it gives you is really good poke. So if you're like walking around an objective or just in lane, you can throw your E onto the enemies, and this Liandry's burn is gonna increase your poke by quite a significant amount. So your E becomes not just for slowing people in the ultimate, but it becomes a poke tool as well. That's the first thing that this Hybrid Miss Fortune gives you. Secondly, of course, this does scale with maximum health. So this is also really good at shredding tanks. Now, of course, no one's going to really stand in the Make It Rain if they can help it. But over time, if you continuously poke down the tanks, and if you manage to get them trapped in the Make It Rain due to other people's CC or whatnot, they're going to be taking quite a lot of damage over time. Now for the boots, you do have a couple of options. Personally, I like the Ionian Boots of Lucidity to get your Q and E up more often. But you can also go for like defensive boots, or you can even go for Gluttonous Greaves, especially since you do both AD and AP. So that will actually give you, of course, more healing because you do have both forms of damage, and it gives you Omnivamp. So next up, we go actually for the Death Cap. Gives you a huge injection of AP, and also, of course, increases your AP by 40%. This is going to make your E do a ton more damage, as well as other things like your ult, which also, of course, scales with AP. And then we go for Sereldas. Now, why do we go for Sereldas instead of going for something like Rylai's? Now, Rylai's stat line isn't very good. It gives you a little bit of health, gives you a little bit of AP. At this point, we have pretty much enough AP with the Death Cap and the Liandry's at this point. So what we want to do is we want to get Serelda's Grudge. Why do we get Serelda's Grudge? It gives you more AD, gives you more ability haste, gives you the armor penetration, and of course the icy slow. So the armor penetration is really important because this makes your ult do a lot more damage. Don't forget that even though your ult scales with AP, which is what you're mainly building in this build, the actual damage of your ult is actually still AD. So you do want Serelda's Grudge to get your ultimate to do more damage against both tanks and squishies, and of course the slow on your E and your ult is going to be amazing when you get to Serelda's Grudge. So when you hit 4 items, you're going to be insanely strong. Now for your last item, you go for something more defensive. You could go for something like a GA that does work, but I prefer something like a Riftmaker instead because it gives you more health, more AP, and more ability haste, and it also gives you the Omnivamp for that sustain. So of course Miss Fortune again does AP damage, does AD damage, And the Omnivamp is going to come in real handy. The Void Corruption giving you true damage is also going to be really, really good. And this is pretty much my hybrid Misfortune build. Now, of course, as I mentioned, if you're going for like Misfortune in like mid or Misfortune support, you probably do want to go like full AP. And the full AP build, I guess you could go for something like Luden's Echo, Liandry's, and Deathcap Rylai's, that sort of build. Where you just go everything AP. But if you're playing her in ADC like I am, you probably don't want to go full on AP. You probably do want to, of course, get some AD in there as well. Of course, the Mana Mune also for the mana, and that sort of deal. And Serelda's, of course, for the ultimate damage. So for the runes and spells, it's pretty straightforward. We go for Conqueror because we're generally in fights for a pretty long amount of time. You could go for like Airy for better poke in laning phase and in the later stages of the game with your E as well. But overall, I think Conqueror is just more consistent considering you're mostly playing as an ADC with an extra poke aspect of your E, as you guys will see in the gameplay later. So now, honestly, I went for Hunter Vampirism, but on second thought, this may not really be the best because Hunter Vampirism is going to scale off of your AP because you're building all AP items, so you're going to have more AP than AD. So this is actually going to give you Magic Vamp, which actually means that this is actually going to cause you to probably only heal off of your E, which is not too hot. So now, on the fly here, we're going to kind of take a look at what we can actually take here. Now, of course, weakness is an option when you get your slow, but this only comes on like late game, so this isn't very good. So honestly, for Misfortune, I would sort of consider between three options. The first option is Brutal. Now Brutal, not the hottest rune in the world, but you do auto attack quite a lot, so Brutal is going to be pretty good. The next option you actually have is Scorch. Now Scorch gonna help you double down on your poke in both early and late game, so this could actually be pretty good. And finally, Giant Slayer is the obvious go-to if you have a lot of tanky champions on the enemy team, but personally I think I'd probably take Brutal. Now Bone Plating as usual, because Bone Plating is just pretty strong now. You can also go for Hunter Titan or Nullifying Orb, and then we also go for the Hunter Genius, of course, for more ability haste. And obviously we go for Flash and we go for Exhaust. Don't really need to explain that one. But now without further ado, let's jump straight into the gameplay. Okay, so let's jump straight into the gameplay. Now, just really briefly, really quickly, in case you guys missed it, like skipped over the build section or whatever, basically we do want to build Hybrid Misfortune. We do want to throw in the Mana Mune and the Serelda's Grudge because Mana Mune does give us mana, and Serelda's Grudge does give us not only the slow but also penetration, which gives our ultimate more damage. This basically makes it such that our Q, E, and ult are all useful, even though we're going for majority AP items, honestly. If you're going for MF mid or MF support, you can go full AP with a build, something like, for example, Luden's, Liandry's, maybe a Death Cap, Void Staff, and like a Rylai's somewhere in there as well. Probably that's going to be what the build somewhat looks like. But yeah, so we're going to jump straight into this game itself. Now this game, you can see where we are MF Seraphine, and we're against a Rakan as well as a Draven. Now this is a really good matchup for us because MF has really good early game damage and early game poke, Seraphine as well, so we have really strong poke against the two of them, whereas Rakan Draven is an all-in kind of lane. So you know, you gotta know the matchup and you don't want to be too scared of them. Of course you don't want to be in range for like Rakan to like knock you up like that, which is gonna of course cause me to be in trouble. Now the reason why it didn't happen there is actually when I walked up to CS, I was lagging for like a second there, which is why I got knocked up when I was like walking up in the first place, which is really unfortunate because I did have to blow my flash. So kind of a negative example of what you should not do there, but hey, you know, when you're lagging you can't quite help it. Anyways, so here what we really want to do here is just continuously poke them down. Doing so will basically make it such that they cannot engage on us. Now you can see that the poke already pays off because we do get the kill on Draven. We're actually chasing Rakan, but unfortunately the Shyvana shows up, so we cannot really continue chasing the Rakan, and now we're going to put ourselves in a bad spot. So now we're going to briefly talk about what kind of matchups you want to pick this pick in the first place. Now, obviously with MF, you generally want to pick her with teammates that can combo with your ultimate. So in this case, we do mainly have the Seraphine ultimate to combo with. Of course, something like a good Echo W or a good Snowball from Nunu could work as well, but the easiest to execute is Seraphine MF combo. Of course, MF works really well with other people like Malphite, Amumu, anyone with a huge AoE, ultimate, Wukong, etc. works really well with MF. And preferably you should have a frontline as well. In this match we do have Nasus. So, now I'm going to talk about when you want to go for the AP build of MF in particular. Now honestly, the time you really want to go for this kind of hybrid AP build is two possibilities. The first possibility is your team is lacking AP, and the second possibility is that the enemy team is really tanky. Now, in this particular matchup, none of these conditions are met. The only reason I'm playing this build in this matchup is because obviously it's new and I want to kind of test out and see how good it is and see if this build should even be recommended to you guys as a video, which turns out that it kind of is, so which is why we're over here now talking about it. But in this matchup, we have enough AP. We have Nunu, we have Echo, we have Seraphine. Of course, Echo is the main point of AP. Seraphine if she goes supportive, and Nunu if he goes tanky. Not gonna have too much AP, but still overall enough AP damage with 3 AP damage dealers on my team. And on the flip side, we don't really have anyone particularly tanky on the enemy team aside from perhaps the Shyvana. So don't know such conditions being met in this particular match, but either way we're gonna go for this build. So here we're gonna dodge out the knockup from the Rakan, and here Nunu comes in for a gang, and here we do end up killing both of them, and I kind of barely survive there, and it does go really well. So before we back, we want to quickly clear out the wave, and then we're gonna just back. So here I was gonna clear out the ward, and then we're gonna just back. And here you can see Shyvana coming in. So yeah, I was really hoping that I could back in time, and I actually managed to back right on time. Really unlucky for the Shyvana, and really lucky for me. She was literally in mid-flight of her ultimate, and just half a second earlier I would have gotten caught. And honestly, this is a real lucky scenario here. I did have my flash, so alternatively I could have tried to cancel my back and flash back towards tower. But we don't really know what would have happened if that was the case. Shyvana might have been able to E me and kill me anyways, so we cannot really tell what would have happened anyways, but thankfully it did work out for me, which is of course amazing. So here Rakan tries to go in, and it really isn't going to work out too well for them at this point. We have a 0 and 2 Draven, a 0 and 1 Rakan. We have a pretty strong lead in this lane. I'm 2-0 and 1. I do have my Manamune completed already. Now, of course, that is not a very good spike for MF, because Manamune needs to evolve to Mirror Mana before it really starts doing damage. So it does make the early game of MF a little bit weaker, but overall, for her mana and just for the on-hit when you get it evolved, it's in my opinion still a really good item to go for as a first item. Here Rakan tries to jump in, gets himself rooted, tries to ult, but ends up hitting nobody with the ultimate. Yeah, it's not a really good day for Rakan and Draven in this particular match. So here, Dragon is up. So obviously with the Shyvana on the enemy team, generally we do want to contest Dragon. Nunu is on the way, and he's on the way to a gank. So enemy team gets a little bit overextended. I ult, managing to get majority of damage onto Rakan, finish off the Rakan, and zone the Draven away due to the ultimate, force him to run towards my tower, and my team can easily finish him off. And now we can fall back onto the Dragon. Now, of course, the Shyvana and Katarina are still missing. Now, of course, this does reveal that they're on the Rift Herald, so they probably were taking the Rift Herald together. And meanwhile, my team takes the Dragon. That's a trade that I would take, because obviously denying Dragon to Shyvana means denying her ability evolutions sooner, so she'll get it later instead of sooner. Although Herald is still pretty good for their team, especially because it's on the Katarina, who if she starts a snowball rolling could lead to us being in trouble. But thankfully so far she has not interacted with us yet. So here of course I'm building towards my Liandry's Torment. I already have the Haunting Guys and the Blasting one in the inventory, and we're gonna make our way back into the lane. Right, so for some reason Draven was there hiding in the bush, and here Draven and Rakan trying to get back into the lane. Full combo goes down onto Seraphine, and here I'm using my ult to sort of trade damage with them. Here you guys can see, basically we end up chunking them out, and if that Seraphine ult hit one or both of them would have died. Fortunately, it goes between the uprights, and here they are still really low. So here Rakan goes in foolishly and he just dies. Draven's not close enough for him to jump away to, and down goes the Rakan. Now again, Shyvana and Katarina can be spotted roaming up towards our lane, so because of that we have to back off. We are getting quite a decent amount of jungle attention in this match. Shyvana has been here like 3 times, but thankfully has never been able to gank us successfully due to the wards we have in the river being able to spot her out, and therefore allowing us to run away before she can really reach and do anything useful. So here we have the entry torment completed, and at this point our E should be doing a decent amount of poke, not insane amounts but just decent, chipping away at their health. Here again we are going to use the ulti to kind of do damage as well as zone them off at the same time. Here Draven ulti comes in as well, doesn't do too much damage, and here on the chase for the Rakan. Rakan ends up running away, so we're going to go for the Draven instead, and we do end up getting the kill on Draven. Now Rakan for some reason goes for Dead Man's Plate as a first item, and because of that we cannot actually reach him. And here we finally get ganked by Shyvana, and finally we die to Shyvana. Her 4th attempt at getting the kill on us finally succeeds, and we do end up falling to the Shyvana. Alright, so here a little bit unfortunate there. Of course we were kind of winning the lane hard. I mean, we are still winning the lane hard. We have a 0-3 and 0 Rakan and a 0-4 and 0 Draven. Now if that's not hard winning a lane, I don't know what is. But we are doing insanely well against our lane opponents. The only reason why we haven't like destroyed the tower etc is because Shyvana has came and ganked us 4 times. She's pretty much just camping top, and I have no idea why she's doing that considering her ADC and her support are hard feeding, but hey, whatever she wants to do, I guess. And so here we're just gonna clear out the lane, and we're basically just trying to get down that top tower, because doing that will actually allow us to start roaming etc. So here we're trying to just get a last hit on it. It's only at 151 health, so just 1 or 2 auto attacks should be able to finish the tower off. Here Rakan ends up going in and having to ult to actually run away because Draven is not close enough to jump to. And yeah, it's not going too well for them. Here 1 auto attack does kill the tower, so we can finally start rotating around to other places. But we do recognize that this is actually an opportunity to actually go in. Rakan tries to flash engage, does end up knocking me up. Seraphine ulti goes wide. My ulti kind of goes wide as well. We end up in a 1v1 versus Draven, and a Fed MF 1v1 against a Draven. Fed MF does win, so we end up getting a kill on both of them. In fact, Seraphine picks up the double. And yeah, so here we do have the Mana Mune evolved into the Mirror Mana already, so we are finally doing good damage with the Qs, and also we have good poke with the E. And here we're gonna complete our stasis, of course, for the safety, and we're gonna start building towards the Rabadon's Death Cap. Of course, another huge power spike. Of course, AP scaling gives a lot more damage to the ulti, and AP scaling gives a lot more damage to the E as well. So here, nothing too much to do, so we're just gonna quickly farm up the jungle, the wolves in particular. Now the next dragon is gonna spawn really soon, so I'm quickly rotating the mid lane to see if we can help our team get mid lane priority. Don't really think my help is needed, but here with the poke we can just poke out the Katarina before the fight. And just tossing the E's basically on cooldown, so whenever my E is up, I'm looking to toss it at somebody. That's one of the main strengths of this hybrid build MF, which is of course her poke with her E. So here, Shyvana again is nowhere in sight. This time there's no herald to be taken, so not quite sure where she went. Here she's coming in, but Dragon is already down. Here I'm repositioning myself because I don't really want to get engaged on by our friend Shyvana. So here we end up ulting down the Rakan, and we also end up auto-attacking down the Draven. So again, another 2 more kills for us. Now Rakan 0-5-0, Draven 0-6 and 0, pretty much out of the equation at this point. Shyvana actually goes for Seraphine successfully, but because of that she's completely overextended and will die to the rest of the team. Get the shutdown on Shyvana, which is pretty huge. 550 gold shutdown is pretty decent. And now we're also going to try to push down the mid lane tower with Nasus. Unfortunately though, Katarina is there, which makes it a little bit difficult. So we're probably not going to be able to actually get much done here. Although we can just poke out the Katarina just a little bit. We do have blue buff, which is pretty good because the blue buff gives us more mana, and MF, even with the mana mune, still runs out of mana relatively quickly, so it's still really useful to have blue buff. Here, Echo gets engaged upon. I try to support him with the ulti. Katarina goes in with an ulti of her own, and I take quite a chunk of damage. I stasis to try to see if my team can help me out, but to no avail. We end up dying to the Katarina, I believe, and a huge fight basically just breaks out. This is pretty much a 4v5 because Nasus is kind of busy split pushing the bot lane, and my team isn't really winning. Here, Seraphine tries to flash the wall to escape, but unfortunately Shyvana can follow, and Nunu and Seraphine simply doesn't do enough to save themselves. Not too much they can do, and here Nasus still split pushing, and the enemy team meanwhile sets down the Herald and starts getting a push down in mid. This probably will net them an inhibitor because we cannot really stop the Herald from charging into the inhib. Here I respawn. I'm trying to get there as quickly as possible, but as you guys can see, Herald has already collided into the inhib, and I use the ult to just quickly clear out the way so no more damage can be done. Just pretty much just clearing out the wave, and here we almost got our death cap. So here we're gonna of course try to take the red buff. We're gonna let Nunu take it, of course, because of the buff sharing, and in the meantime we clear this control ward they put in our jungle. Quickly gonna pick up that red buff, pop a ward down on the Baron just in case. But yeah, at this point my team is doing pretty well. We got 2 dragons, we have a slight like 3k gold lead. So we're doing pretty alright, and me myself, I'm 2-7, not 2-7, I'm 6-2 and 7. 2-7 is pretty bad. I'm 6-2 and 7, and I think I can complete my death cap now. Yep, we do. So I'm at 3 items, and at this point we're pretty strong. Of course, with the Serelda's Grudge, that's when we hit the massive power spike of having everything we want on hit, on Q, the burn, the AP, and the slows, as well as the ult penetration. So we're almost there, trying to get to the Serelda's Grudge. Now here we can actually spot the whole enemy team going down from the Nasus, which is why we're pinging him away. Nasus is actually pinging to fight though, so me and Seraphine are making our way there to see if we can back him up. So here the whole enemy team trying to push down this tower. Nice route onto the Shyvana here. Draven is actually tanking the tower. Really good ulti by the Seraphine, and we end up getting a double onto Draven and Rakan again. Here I get rooted, unfortunately, so I can't really catch up to the fight. My whole team is kind of running the enemy team down at this point. Meanwhile, I'm just taking the minions as I'm walking there. My E actually picks up the kill onto the Shyvana. Of course, with the death cap and with the Liandry's, my E is going to do pretty decent damage by this point. Echo this whole time, by the way, has just been split pushing top. So this is a pretty free Baron. We have 3 people dead on the enemy team, inclusive of the enemy jungle. And we also have a split pusher which they have to deal with, so this is pretty much a completely free Baron. Now the only issue is, with this hybrid build, MF does a lot less damage to Baron than normal, so it's taking quite a bit of time to actually get ourselves the Baron, but we do of course eventually get it, well, without any issue, without any contest, as you would expect. 2 components of Serelda's Grudge are both obtained, and we're in a pretty good spot now, 9, 2, and 7. I think we got the most gold in the game. Actually, we don't. Shyvana actually has more gold than us. So Shyvana is the only thing keeping the enemy team alive. No one else is really doing well on the enemy team. They have a Senna top, by the way, who's actually 3-1 and 4, which is pretty decent. But the bot lane has fed pretty hard, and Katarina is not doing too hot herself. So situation looks pretty dire for the enemy team. Last dragon is actually spawning. Last dragon before the Elder, that is. The mountain dragon is here, and we pretty much should be able to actually get it before Shyvana can even reach here. We can see Shyvana in the mid lane, and she shouldn't be able to reach her at all. Yeah, there we go. We secured the triple dragon. And here we're also going to quickly just pick up the the blue buff. Of course, because we do have massive mana issues, so the blue buff is going to come in real handy for us. And I believe here we should have the Serelda's, which is where we're backing. There we go, Serelda's Grudge completed. So at the 4 item power spike, in my opinion, this is Miss Fortune's most strongest point of the game. Of course, with Rhythmaker, you do get another spike with the Omnivamp and the true damage, but I think with these 4 core items, you are already insanely strong. You have everything you really need. And here with the Baron buff, we're going to run straight down the mid lane and see what we can do. Here we got a really huge ulti combo with the Seraphine, allowing us to actually kill the Rakan and chase down the rest. Flash forward to try to chase. Unfortunately though, we run into the root of Senna. Nunu rotates from top lane, and one of the bad things about Liandry's is how it kind of gives you tower aggro all the time. We secure the mid lane tower, and we're going to rotate over to the top lane using the Baron buff again to take down the top lane tower as well. There we go, both towers have been secured. And at this point, we're just kind of playing with our food. We could easily end the game if we wanted to by focusing the base. But here, we are pretty much just trying to do damage to the enemy team. And yeah, just pretty much having fun at this point. We're just targeting enemy team members. I'm just ulting the wave to clear it, as well as trying to do a little bit of damage to the Senna. Just tossing my E down non-stop. Nasus goes in for the Senna, but Senna survives. Nasus has had enough, and he decides to go for the base itself, putting an end to this game. So as usual, I'm going to leave you guys with the stats. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye.